Classical Greek architecture can be divided into three separate styles: the Doric order, the Ionic order, and the Corinthian order. Classical Greek architecture is highly formalized in structure and decoration, and is best known for its temples, many of which are found throughout the region as substantially intact ruins. Each classical Greek temple appears to have been conceived as a sculptural entity within the landscape, and is usually raised on higher ground so that its proportions and the effects of light on its surface can be viewed from multiple angles. Open-air theaters are also an important type of building that survives throughout the Hellenic world, with the earliest dating from approximately 525 to 480 BCE. Greek architectural style can be divided into three separate orders: the Doric order, the Ionic order, and the Corinthian order. These styles have had a profound impact on Western architecture of later periods. In particular, the architecture of ancient Rome grew out of Greek architecture. Revivals of classicism have also brought about renewed interest in the architectural styles of ancient Greece. While the three orders of Greek architecture are most easily recognizable by their capitals, the orders also governed the form, proportions, details, and relationships of the columns, entablature, pediment, and stylobate. Orders were applied to the whole range of buildings and monuments. The Doric order developed on mainland Greece and spread to Italy. It is most easily recognized by its capital, which appears as a circular cushion placed on top of a column onto which a lintel rests. In early examples of the Doric order, the cushion is splayed and flat, but over time it became more refined, deeper, and with a greater curve. Doric columns almost always feature fluting down the length of the column, numbering up to 20 flutes. The flutes meet at sharp edges called arises. Doric columns typically have no bases, with the exception of a few examples dating from the Hellenistic period. Columns of an early Doric temple, such as the Temple of Apollo at Syracuse, could have a column height to an entablature ratio of 2:1, and a column height to a base diameter ratio of only 4:1. Later, a column height to a diameter ratio of 6:1 became more usual, and there is a column height to an entablature ratio at the Parthenon of approximately 3:1. Doric entablatures consist of three parts: the architrave, the frieze, and the cornice. The architrave is composed of stone lintels that span the space between columns. On top of this rests the frieze, one of the major areas of sculptural decoration. The frieze is divided into triglyphs and metopes. The triglyphs have three vertical grooves, similar to columnar fluting, and below them are glutae, small strips that appear to connect the triglyphs to the architrave below. The triglyphs are located above the center of each capital and the center of each lintel. Pediments in the Doric style were decorated with figures in relief in early examples. However, by the time the sculptures on the Parthenon were created, many pediment decorations were freestanding. The Parthenon is considered the most important surviving building of classical Greece and the zenith of Doric order architecture. It is a former temple on the Athenian Acropolis dedicated to the patron goddess of Athens, Athena. Construction began on the Parthenon in 447 BCE, when the Athenian Empire was at its peak. Construction was completed in 438 BCE, but decoration of the building continued until 432 BCE. Although most architectural elements of the Parthenon belong to the Doric order, a continuous sculptured frieze in low relief that sits above the architrave belongs to the Ionic style. The Ionic order coexisted with the Doric order and was favored by Greek cities in Ionia, Asia Minor, and the Aegean Islands. It did not evolve into a clearly defined style until the mid-5th century BCE. Early Ionic temples in Asia Minor were particularly ambitious in scale. The Ionic order is most easily identified by its voluted capital. The cushion placed on top of the column is similarly shaped to that of the Doric order, but is decorated with a stylized ornament and surmounted by a horizontal band that scrolls under to either side. Ionic order columns are fluted with narrow, shallow flutes that do not meet at a sharp edge, but have a flat band between them. The usual number of flutes is 24, but there can be as many as 44. The architrave is not always decorated, but more often it rises into three outwardly stepped bands. The frieze runs in a continuous band and is separated from other members by rows of small projecting blocks. The Ionic order is lighter in appearance than the Doric order, with columns that have a 9:1 ratio, and the diameter and the whole entablature appears much narrower and less heavy than those of the Doric. Decorations were distributed with some variation, and Ionic entablatures often featured formalized bands of motifs. The external frieze often contained a continuous band of figurative sculpture of ornament, though this was not always the case. Caryatids, draped female figures used as supporting members to the entablature, were also a feature of the Ionic order. The Corinthian order grew directly from the Ionic in the mid-5th century BCE and was initially of a very similar style and proportion, with the only distinguishing factor being its more ornate capitals. The capitals of the Corinthian order were much deeper than those of the Doric and Ionic orders. They were shaped like a bell-shaped mixing bowl and ornamented with a double row of acanthus leaves, above which rose splayed, voluted tendrils. The ratio of column height to diameter of the Corinthian order is generally 10:1, with the capital taking up more than a tenth of the height. The ratio of capital height to diameter is generally about 1:16:1. Initially, the Corinthian order was used internally in such sites as the temple of Apollo Epicurus at Bassa. By the late 300s, features of the Corinthian order began to be used externally at sites such as the Choragic monument of Lysicrates and the temple of Zeus Olympia, both in Athens. During the Hellenistic period, Corinthian columns were sometimes built without fluting. The Corinthian order became popular among the Romans, who added a number of refinements and decorative details. Hellenistic culture produced seats of learning in Alexandria, Egypt, and Antioch, Syria, along with Greek-speaking populations across several monarchies. Hellenistic science differed from Greek science in at least two ways. First, it benefited from the cross-fertilization of Greek ideas with those that had developed in the larger Hellenistic world. And secondly, to some extent, it was supported by royal patrons in the kingdoms founded by Alexander's successors. Especially important to Hellenistic science was the city of Alexandria in Egypt, which became a major center of scientific research in the 3rd century BCE. Two institutions established there during the reigns of Ptolemy I Soter and Ptolemy II Philadelphus were the library and the museum. Unlike Plato's Academy and Aristotle's Lyceum, these institutions were officially supported by the Ptolemies, although the extent of patronage could be precarious depending on the policies of the current ruler. Forgive me ahead of time for the pronunciation of the names on this slide. I have read these names before, but I've never heard them pronounced out loud, especially in Greek. So the discovery of several Greek mathematicians, including Pythagoras and Euclid, are still used in mathematical teaching today. Important developments include the basic rules of geometry, the idea of a formal mathematical proof, and discoveries in number theory, mathematical analysis, and applied mathematics. Ancient Greek mathematicians also came close to establishing integral calculus. The Greeks also developed the field of astronomy, which they treated as a branch of mathematics to a highly sophisticated level. The first geometrical three-dimensional models to explain the apparent motion of the planets was developed in the 4th century BCE by Eudoxus of Cnidus and Callippus of Cyzicus. Their younger contemporary, Heraclides Ponticus, proposed that the Earth rotates around its axis. In the 3rd century BCE, Aristarchus of Samos was the first to suggest a heliocentric system. In the 2nd century BCE, Hipparchus of Nicaea made a number of contributions, including the first measurement of precision and the compilation of the first star catalog, in which he proposed the modern system of apparent magnitudes. The ancient Greeks also made important discoveries in the medical field. Hippocrates was a physician of the classical period and is considered one of the most outstanding figures in the history of medicine. He is sometimes even referred to as the father of medicine. Most notably, he founded the Hippocratic School of Medicine, which revolutionized medicine in ancient Greece by establishing it as a discipline distinct from other fields and making medicine a profession. Other notable Hellenistic scientists and their achievements include Herophilus from 335 to 280 BCE, who was the first to base medical conclusions on dissection of the human body and to describe the nervous system. Archimedes, circa 287 to 212 BCE, a geometer, physicist, and engineer who laid the foundations of hydrostatics and statics and explained the principle of the lever, and Eratosthenes, circa 276 BCE to 195 or 194 BCE, who measured the distance between the sun and the earth as well as the size of the earth. In closing, the cultural achievements of classical Greece represent one of the most profound legacies in world history, shaping the foundations of Western thought, politics, science, literature, and art. From the penetrating questions of Socrates to the idealism of Plato and the empirical rigor of Aristotle, Greek philosophy challenged humanity to reflect on virtue, justice, knowledge, and the natural world. At the same time, the epic poetry of Homer offered models of heroism and narrative structure that would influence generations of writers and historians such as Herodotus and Thucydides, who pioneered methods of historical inquiry and analysis still recognized today. The dramatic innovations of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides gave voice to human suffering, fate, and the complexities of moral choice, while Aristophanes' comedies opened a space for satire and civic reflection. Meanwhile, Greek architects formalized the aesthetic principles of symmetry, proportion, and harmony in structures like the Parthenon, setting enduring standards for public and sacred architecture. The scientific and intellectual advancements of the classical and Hellenistic periods further demonstrate the Greeks' commitment to rational investigation. Thinkers like Euclid, Hippocrates, and Archimedes laid the groundwork for mathematics, medicine, and engineering, and institutions like the Library of Alexandria helped preserve and expand Greek knowledge across cultures. Altogether, the culture of classical Greece was marked by a relentless pursuit of truth, beauty, and excellence in all aspects of life. Its achievements were not isolated to a single field, but represented a holistic vision of human flourishing that continues to inspire critical inquiry, artistic expression, and civic life in the modern world.